So if for argument's sake only, the rapture doesn't come out, it doesn't happen on the Feast of Trumpets on September the 22nd or 23rd of 2025, then do you think anybody is going to be depressed or think they missed the rapture? Okay. And that's number one.
You're asking me officially?
This is two different questions. That's one. The other part of the question is, do you think that there could be a fake Jesus trying to get people to follow them, acting like he's the Messiah coming back for the rapture, but he's really false? Do you think that could happen?
I don't really think that applies in this situation.
Why?
Because fake Jesuses don't go around giving mountains of evidence for the only thing that is based on truth. Things that are based on truth have lots of evidence, but things that are based on like demonic activity, that false Jesuses, they don't have mountains of actual evidence coming up from like all corners of the earth, which only God can do.
But what about putting in the clouds, using some kind of technology to make it look like it's Jesus coming through? What do you call that? A hologram.
That's not the case.
Are you sure?
You're,
what if there's a hologram?
Where are you getting that from? I thought you asked me the first question. You didn't even let me answer.
Okay, we'll do the first question.
What was the first question?
Okay, the first question. The first question is, for argument's sakes only, if the rapture does not occur on the date that is being predicted right now, on September, for the Rosh Hashanah, which is the Feast of Trumpets, right? On September 22nd and 23rd, or 23rd and 24th? Which one is it?
It's the 23rd, 24th.
Okay, so if that does not happen this year, like it's been predicted.
If it doesn't happen?
If it doesn't happen, the rapture doesn't happen.
When God says
do you think
something,
people are going to be depressed?
So to answer your question, if it doesn't happen, something that God has said, will people be depressed? Let me just think about this for a minute. Once it does happen, something that Jesus says, remember, Jesus never says a lie because that's not in him. Jesus is holy, right? He's not going to come down and say, hey, by the way, I'm Jesus. I'm telling you, the rapture is going to come several years later, 2025, September 23rd and 4th. And all right, see you later. I'm Jesus. I don't lie. Jesus can't like.
That was the guy that
can't lie.
That was the guy named Joshua.
Jesus is holy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He can't make anything up like that. That's not a false Jesus. It's not a false Jesus because the mountains of evidence coming through. There's literally like testimonies, people praying to God for the answers for truth that are like real Christians, like prophetic Christians, like Christians who sincerely love Jesus. And those people are not going to get false messages when you see and you take all of the mountains, and there's going to be more, I guarantee you. Every week there will be more and more and more until there is so much information that Christians would literally be like, have to slap themselves in the face and actually not actually pay attention to it.
So you're saying there's so much evidence that it'll be hard to deny?
No, basically, but even more so than that, there's so much evidence that it's a clear message from God, because guess what? Only God can do this. This is called a message from God in 100 ways, and they're all exactly true. Like only God can do that, right? Satan is like literally like a master of lies, right? He can only spin lies. He can't like get the entire world to agree on one thing and then have this unanimous thing come out. Satan is all about like chaos and disorder. He can't get like mountains of the same exact thing to go along with not only their testimonies, their prophecies, their dreams. Like it said, they will dream dreams, they will have visions. Not only is that happening, but it's going to happen more and more and more closer to this date. And it's not only is that going to happen, because it's already happening, but there are literally like dozens of like proofs, whether it's like biblical prophecies and like literally things about the Bible. Like there are like things that people have found from within the Bible that have like ways to like show like there are certain like the 6,000, 7,000 year, how old the earth is, how old Adam to Jesus and Jesus to now, 6,000 and then 7,000 year total. when Jesus rules for 1,000 years. I mean, like the amount of like very specific information coming out that literally proves this. It proves it to a matter of degree and certainty beyond what the devil can do. The devil can manipulate. He cannot create what God is able to create. God can create literally harmony and order out of nothing, right? He can create harmony and order out of everything. And so like you could just think like what's happening right now is literally God. He's communicating one message through 1,000 voices all over the world at the same time, through all media channels, every type of channel. And God is communicating one thing and one thing clearly. That this is the rapture, and then the tribulation begins when the peace treaty is signed in September 23rd, when their little UN meeting happens, and that's when things are going to go bad. And guess what? We're going to get raptured on the 23rd, which is the very date that the UN is meeting for this, like, I think, peace treaty thing. It's literally the very date that says in that screenshot, the 23rd. The 23rd is literally the date, is literally the same date that I typed up. I had AI, figure out based on the new moon, when is the Feast of Trumpets going to happen,
Right.
Because it happens whenever the new moon happens. But
Right.
if the new moon happens...
The new moon is the first of the year.
If the new moon
the
happens,
Jewish year.
If the new moon happens before the Feast of Trumpets, then the first day that we were given from Jesus to Joshua, the 23rd and the 24th, the first day is the 23rd. So if the new moon has happened before that date, then it's going to most likely happen on the 23rd, because the new moon had already happened, right? And so it only leaves you one day. You can't happen in more than one day. And if the new moon has already happened, then it technically, for the Feast of Trumpets, like based on all of that information we were given, the rapture is going to happen on the 23rd, and it's going to happen sometime between, as what they anticipate, sunrise to sunset, particularly in the evening near sunset, because I've heard that the sky is going to be dark, and then there's going to be a light that comes, and that's going to be where Jesus is. And then there is going to be clouds and stuff like that. I've heard that it could be dark, right? So there's a chance it could be dark. So it could be like just before sunset, or it could be anytime during the day, but it's probably going to be on the 23rd, not the 24th. Because the new moon, if it's based on the new moon, and it's going along with the Jewish feast, like the way it normally always goes. But now Jesus said it's only on those 2 days. Well, technically, the 23rd is the second official day of the feast, and that goes with the 2 days that Jesus gave Joshua. So it's literally the second day of the feast, but it's the first of the 2 days that Jesus gave Joshua. So it's literally only able to happen on the 23rd. It's like literally boxed into the 23rd. And so because it's the second day of the actual feast is the 23rd, it can't be the 24th, because the way the feast days are set up is it starts on if the new moon happens before, which is what is happening, the new moon is starting on the 21st.
We can calculate it nowadays.
I know, I already asked him to look it up.
So the new moon,
The new moon is happening on the 21st, even before the 22nd. The new moon is actually happening on the 21st, which is actually before the Feast of Trumpets.
Is that in Arizona or in Jerusalem?
It's just period.
See if you can find it when it's Jerusalem, because Steve thinks that Jerusalem time is when, if any time was going to be calculated, but he's not predicting that it's going to happen on that day. But he did say that whatever time they use will be probably time in Jerusalem.
All right, so they're going to give me the time right now. Give me a second. But basically, all this means is that, we have Jerusalem. It would be about 4 p.m. in Jerusalem.
On what day?
September 21st.
Is that a Friday, or what day
That's
is?
a Sunday.
That's a Sunday. And then what time would that be in Arizona?
It would be 6 a.m. in Arizona.
On the 21st of September?
On the 21st.
So that means, so in Missouri, that'd be 2 hours later. Did you say 6 a.m.?
It would be 6 a.m.
So
on the
8 a.m. in
21st.
Missouri.
So the new moon happens
7
even
a.m.
before the Feast of Trumpets doesn't happen until
8
the
a.m.
evening of the 22nd. Okay? So the new moon is already occurring, right? So it's already doing its new moon thing. So it's happening before the Feast of Trumpets even begins. So the Feast of Trumpets.
That's interesting. I thought the Feast of Trumpets always happened on the first.
The Feast of Trumpets is a 2-day period of time. It's the only feast that's 2 days, right?
Okay.
So the Feast of Trumpets starts in the evening of the 22nd this time to the 24th, right? So it's not, you don't count the evening of the 22nd, but it starts the evening of the 22nd and it goes to the 23rd and the 24th. But if
Jerusalem time or Arizona time?
That's just the way it happens. This is the way it is. It's the dates of the Bible, Jews.
So it would be
their Jewish Bible or whatever.
So it would probably be in Jerusalem.
We're talking about actual dates, not coordinated with
because
time
they
zones.
start at the sundown on the night before.
We're talking about just the dates themselves, coordinating with the Jewish Bible dates in their little Jewish calendar. It's different from any other calendar.
Yes, okay.
The Jewish calendar is not based on time zones. It's based on the Jewish calendar only. So I'm talking about just the dates. I'm not talking about the times.
Okay.
So the new moon has already happened. Now the Feast of Trumpets is going on. And when that happens, then according to you have the feast as soon as the new moon happens, right? So you have the feast, but if during those 2 days, the 23rd and the 24th now, but if that's the way, you have it the 22nd and the evening of the 22nd, you can have the feast. And so you have the evening of the 22nd, in this case, it starts, and then you go to the evening of the 23rd, evening of the 23rd, 24th. And so the evening of the 24th. So it goes from the evening of the 22nd to the evening of the 24th. It goes for 2 days. And so but Jesus told Joshua it would only be the 23rd or the 24th, right? And so knowing that, right, you take the actual real date that we have of the Feast of Trumpets, which is the evening of the 22nd to the evening of the 24th. It can only now be on the 23rd and the 24th. But if the new moon has already happened, right, then you're going to eat the soonest you can. So it's going to be on the 23rd. It's going to correlate if it's already started and the feast is already happening, but it can only now happen, the rapture, based on what Jesus told Joshua in the 23rd, 24th, then you're going to have the 23rd is going to be the first time that you're going to be doing the rapture if it already has the new moon, based on the new moon existing, and that being the qualifying factor. So if that's the qualifying factor is the presence of the new moon when the feast would actually be held, and then based on the times given to Joshua by Jesus, then it would be the 23rd. The 23rd would be the day that the rapture would happen, because the feast would already be happening. New moon has already occurred. If the new moon is the factor,
okay.
And I've actually heard like 1 or 2 people say it's going to be just the 23rd. Clearly, point blank, I've heard them say that.
Yeah.
Not the 24th. Never heard the 24th, but I have heard I heard somebody hearsay. I did hear somebody hearsay say something about the 25th, but I did recently hear someone that actually just said the 23rd. And technically, based on all of these things, if that's what, if they're literally saying no man knows the day or an hour, referring to the Feast of Trumpets, right? And not referring to nobody knows the actual time. Like, so if you take the doubt away and you say, perhaps we actually can know because of all this information, first of all, we can find out when the new moon happened, when the feast happens, we can find out what Jesus told Joshua, when the rapture would happen. And then you combine that, and if you take out the idea of doubt away, but it doesn't mean that no one really knows, it just means the Feast of Trumpets, then you're more identifying exactly with that you can ascertain when it might happen, right? And so then at this point, you're if you just use the logic available, then it would be what I just asked AI to all that questions and eventually got to the answer that I told you just now, is that it would be the 23rd in Eastern Arizona from sunset to sundown, and preferably in the evening.
Yeah.
Say that like it's not like an if thing, it's a when thing, because like when God communicates a message, you want your heart to be soft, right? You don't want your heart to be hard. You want your heart to be soft. When God communicates a message, that's a really big message, right? That people are going to be like, oh, I don't really know about it. It's like kind of like, like kind of like unknown or whatever.
Well,
And if you take like that general consensus, people are generally like, what? You said the rapture is going to happen? You sure? You take that and you combine it with general consensus of everybody is confused about this stuff, right? So what's God going to do? He's going to make his point. He's going to make it very clear. He's going to do it over and over and over again.
Well, I have a question.
Until it's so clear, right? Because guess what? If he doesn't do that, it's like he's not God. Because what God does, he uses every available avenue to communicate a message that he really wants to get across, right? Because he has every available avenue at his dispense.
Okay.
This is why Satan can't do this type of thing.
But let me ask
God
you,
can.
Just on the off chance that Joshua did not really see Jesus, but he saw another kind of a vision that was a fake Jesus.
Well, there's been some people that actually corroborate the fact that they trust Joshua. So there's people backing Joshua that have spoken to him, that have talked to him, that have literally and if you listen to it, if you listen to it yourself, because I listened to both of them. I listened to his testimony that he gave to God's Voice Daily, where he actually spelled it all out exactly what had happened. I listened to that one. You haven't heard that one yet, but when you hear exactly,
you could send me that one if you want.
When you hear exactly what it's the one that says 2026 will be unrecognizable. The World Cup in 2026 will not happen because the rapture in 2025 will literally it would devastate the world. Because think about it, all of the problems with the rapture.
Did you say the World Cup?
The World Cup in 2026, which is supposed to be in America for soccer, will not happen. Because the world will have been devastated by the rapture that's coming up next month. So think about why. Because there's going to be people that literally disappear. Okay, now that problem is going to be a widespread, worldwide problem because Christians are everywhere, right? There's even places where Christians are really relied upon. Like there's going to be pilots that where their planes fall out of the sky. There's going to be really, really, really critical jobs that Christians will just permanently disappear and never return, ever. There's going to be horrible car accidents. There's going to be so many car accidents because people are literally going to be taken away from their car while their car is driving. We're going to have an epidemic of all of these problems, and they're all going to add up, and the people are going to try to explain it away because guess what? Satan is pretty much in control of most of the nations right now. They're going to spin a lie, whatever lie their people will accept, probably based on UFOs and aliens and stuff, saying that somehow, people were relocated, the people who had a higher consciousness. And they'll be or something like that. If you're all into Jesus, perhaps you had a higher consciousness and the aliens took you to a safer location. Who knows what they're going to say, but they're going to spin some lies. But what I'm saying is 2026 is going to be crazy.
But how do we know? Or how will people know that this is really Jesus and not a fake Jesus?
Well, you can only know if you add up the pieces yourself, and that's why I say go watch this stuff and get a feel for what he's actually saying. Go and find other people who have verified that they believe he's speaking the truth. He's not a liar. He's a very kind person that loves Jesus. Joshua, who Jesus appeared to.
What's his last
physically.
name? Do you know?
It starts with M.
Okay. And then the other thing is, do you think that some people, if it doesn't happen like we think it predicted, then do you think people are going to be dismayed and disappointed and sad?
If people are sad by becoming closer to Jesus, then they have an issue. Right? Because really, what's the real bottom line here? We're trying to get closer to Jesus because guess what? Who is in heaven? Jesus. He's God. He's everywhere. His presence is in heaven. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go to heaven, you have to be in Jesus' presence. And guess what? If you're going to be in Jesus' presence, it's going to be pretty freaking cool and amazing. It's going to be awesome.
So
it's going
you're
to be
saying
loving.
whether
it's going to be
or
amazing.
not,
but you got to be compatible with Jesus.
But what if So what if the rapture does not happen on that date? Will people still have come to Jesus and gotten closer to Jesus, and then they would feel like, well, even though the rapture didn't happen, I'm closer to Jesus.
This is what's going on right now is called the Great Awakening, right? What's going on during the Tribulation called the Great Tribulation. This is the Great Awakening. So all of these messages about the rapture and all this truth and prophecy coming out about this stuff is literally the Great Awakening, pushing out a message of Jesus, pushing out the truth of a date that people are getting in their heart, in their mind, in their spirit.
Yeah.
They're getting this message and they're putting it out. Right? They're saying, they're praying about it, they're fasting about it, they're seeking the Lord, they're praying about it, they're hearing about it. When they heard about the message, they usually would say, but that's pretty extreme. Jesus is saying that it's going to happen next month.
Right.
But if you think about it, all of the pieces seem clean, the pieces seem clear, the pieces seem correct. Right? And if you look at all of the evidence is very plentiful. It's about one date. It's not about some false date from the past, like Calvary Chapel, that had only two pieces of logic to it. Only had two pieces of backup or evidence or any type of thing that's make it something, thing that make it real. But this one has like a number of it. It has at least 15 hard proven, factual, evidence-based pieces. Probably will have at least one additional one every single week that happens until that happens. So we'll probably end up with between 20 solid, factual, biblical, evidence-based, like literal arrows pointing to truth, right? Literal arrows pointing to the only thing that it can be.
But can I also say,
God is trying to communicate one clear message, only one message over and over again.
But can I say something else? Now, this is me with my critical thinking brain. Okay, my critical thinking brain. So, you know how a lot of people believe something very strong? Because of a lot of faceless channels are talking about having, near-death experiences and other things like that, where you don't really know if it's a real story. It's not really documented, but it makes it seem like it is. So it could be just AI or it could be a story, but it might not be exactly 100% true. But it sure is a nice story, and it
none
says
of
a lot
these are
of
faceless. These are all real people coming forward.
Okay. So, but we did see some faceless ones too.
Only one that I see.
Only one? Okay, well that's good. But anyway, so what
And it
about?
was a near-death experience, just to clear that up, where Jesus
Right.
spoke to him even without dying in that specific one, but that had a September. It didn't have the dates to it.
Yeah.
Didn't have the specific days for it. Just had September
September.
2025.
Okay, that's
So that's pretty cool. Even
Yeah.
though normally that doesn't happen. I did see one more near-death experience, an actual near-death experience where Jesus told him, where it was actually September 23rd.
Okay, but the near
I
death.
think it was the 23rd.
But
I'm pretty sure I did see. That might have been where I heard the 23rd one. It might have been in a
do you
near-death experience.
do you remember? Now this is me with my critical brain. Okay, I don't know. This is just came to me just now. Remember with COVID-19 how there was a lot of propaganda on either side of the fence. One side was to be afraid of COVID, and one side was to not be afraid of it. But then the people that weren't afraid of it wanted to take ivermectin and stuff like that. But the people on the side, the government prevented people from doing that, and they actually gave them drugs in the hospitals to kill them. So basically, there's still polarization over that on some people. So people believed so strongly in that. Do you remember how polarized people were? They believed so strongly on it that some of them still do.
I didn't really have experience with that.
You were on the side where you didn't believe.
I didn't really know what was going on. I don't really have experience to answer that question.
Okay. For me, I saw a lot of propaganda on both sides. Well, I thought the propaganda was on the opposite side that I was on, and it probably was. But a lot of people thought the propaganda was on their side and not the other side. That's just normal, what people think. But what if there's propaganda here? What if it's a test? What if, just like COVID-19 was a test to see how many people would wear masks, how many people would do what they wanted, how many people would get shots? What if this is another test to see how many Christians are going to prepare for the rapture? What if this was a test?
If you prepare for the rapture, you're getting close to Jesus. I think that's a great test to pass.
Now, but what if the bad people...
If you're going to prepare for
what
something,
if the bad
I would say
people...
preparing for the rapture means getting closer to Jesus.
But what if the...
I don't care if it's good or bad, you better do that. That's the only thing that
Okay,
matters.
no, I know, but what if the bad people are testing to see how many people will fall for a date? What if it's not really the date? What if it... I mean, it could be, but what if it's not? And what if the main reason... We always say, please be ready all the time. Be ready all the time. Don't just wait for one certain date. But it could be a test to see if the society falls apart, if it doesn't happen. Or it could be a test where somebody's going to try to trick people and they're going to follow the wrong Jesus.
What I really think is happening is that you're buying into fear, and you're saying, what if this is a thing that's based on fear, not a thing that's based on God?
Yes, exactly.
And so what I'm trying to tell you is that God communicates this way. Fear doesn't. What? God communicates in a big way, clearly, with one coherent message going through all these different people. Fear doesn't do that. What fear causes you to do is called chaos. Not the same thing. Fear causes people to shut down. Fear causes people to not do anything. Fear doesn't cause people to have visions and prophecies and dreams the way that is supposed to happen in the end days, when it's the very end of the very end days, when the very last of the very last days, God is going to be speaking like that. He's not going to be speaking from the Bible. You already have the Bible. You already have the Bible. If you haven't read the Bible by now, he's trying to reach you by all these other means. Like literally the Bible has been there. But if you haven't been listening to it, guess what? He's now taking out all the stops. He is now giving everybody. Now, I actually heard that when the rapture happens, the line between spiritual world and the physical world will be like this. Right now they're like this, and it's closing. Closer it gets to September 23rd, it's going to be like this. Now, the closer it gets, the more dreams and the more visions people are going to be having. The closer their spiritual world is overlapping to the physical world. So what's going to happen, if that's the way it's working, then you're going to have far more every single week. It will be exponential. There will be no type of addition at all. It will be pure exponential. What we see now, even what I'm saying now, there will be like 100 or 1,000 times as much evidence in like the short period of 4 more weeks. There will be 100 from all of the clear, definitive evidence that I have seen, about 15 solid points, right? And 16 actually, because if you count the newest one. So 16 solid points that go in biblical prophecy, biblically based, like patterns, recognizing number patterns, recognizing
But you
this.
put it all in a Google Doc, didn't you?
It's just not organized very well.
Oh.
I was typing things out of order.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like sendable.
Oh, okay.
And I already spent so much time that I just don't want to like go through and like
Takes a lot of time.
and fix it, because it's just all these things.
Like if I was going to try to...
So much facts. I mean, I could give it to you. You could look at it. But it's just so many things.
I thought you did.
It just blows your mind.
I think you did.
The amount of actual real things that God is actually really saying. It's not in something fake at all.
But here's
this
another
is
thing.
like there is no, like what I'm saying is, it is not possible for this to be not be God, because only God can do all this.
Well, wait
and
a
in
second.
the last
Wait a
days there
second.
will be dreams and prophecies and visions, and guess what? Those are going to be from God. And
Okay,
so
but yeah,
all of the influx of dreams and visions are going to be about the end times, when something is going to happen. The very next thing that's going to happen is the rapture.
Okay, so here's something else I've heard of. Now this is, I know I'm being very...
Now, also, God is preparing everybody for the tribulation. So anybody who is getting these messages and have no idea what they're talking about and just feel like, even like you, people who are like you, who literally think like, oh yeah, it could be real, but it also could be wrong. Like it could be fear-based. Like I think it's just so bad. Like people are going to be like that too. And guess what? That is exactly what the rest of the world is thinking, because they don't even care. Right? But there's a lot of people like Christians who are actually worried. Some of them are like, okay, this is the two scenarios. Scenario one is Christians are like, I see it. I see the patterns. And in my heart, I feel it's right. I feel it. I feel that God would give us this message this way, very strong, very clear. And then there's the other Christian who's like, wow, it could be anything. It could be like another COVID. It could be fear. It could be like Satan, like piling up messages of evil, like taking over the world, saying that it's going to be the last days and it's not really, and tricking everybody. But guess what? If Satan wouldn't do that, because guess what? In this case, Satan wouldn't play that card, because Satan doesn't want anybody to get closer to Jesus, which is what this is all about.
Let me just say something else.
Satan wouldn't play that card because it's about getting closer to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He would never say it. So we just eliminated that entire branch. It cannot be Satan.
Well, let me say something. During COVID, there was some things that happened, not just during COVID, maybe before or after COVID. Anyway, different times where people have taken a gun and killed somebody, when somebody was blamed, somebody that was generally a nice person, they were spoken to with this device called the
If
voice.
you have one more level of this, I think we can even stop for the evening.
Okay, this is the last one. This is the last one.
This could technically fear can go forever.
Well,
you can just get smaller and smaller, or changing to different things.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. This is the
Jesus
last
told
one.
Joshua never to talk about any of the pre-trib, post-trib, whatever trib, never any of that stuff, because it's just literally it's like a black hole of information. You can get lost in it and literally miss the whole point, which is to get closer to Jesus.
Okay.
If you get lost in the information and you miss Jesus, what the heck, man? This is the whole point. The whole point of this entire show is that God is saying, hey, I'm real. Jesus is real. Get to know me before it's going to get really, really bad.
Right. Well, I agree with that part. Okay, I agree. But what I was saying is, there have been very nice people that there was a device called the voice of God. I don't know if you've heard of that. But what it would do is people would think that God was talking to them and telling them to do stuff. And they would do stuff that was not good. And then they would get in trouble. They'd be blamed for something, but someone else orchestrated it. The only reason I'm saying that is, could the visions they're having be something like that rather than really God?
Satan really doesn't want people to get closer to Jesus. So my answer to that is probably no. If you're trying to trick people into thinking there's a real rapture because you want people to get closer to Jesus, like that's
no. What if they wanted to get a trick, a bad person, that they want to have people follow the wrong Jesus or something? I don't know. Anyway, I know. We always need to be ready.
It's an empty point, because you can't trick people.
We need
or
discernment.
Try to threaten people into any type of fear. There's that whole argument is just not based on anything. So anytime you find yourself going to that fear-based argument, but isn't there something bad about what's happening? Couldn't there be something bad?
I just want us to have discernment.
Yeah, discernment.
Pray for discernment.
More than even discernment is actually,
and
everyone
be
needs
ready.
discernment.
And be ready.
But more than discernment, you need to pray to get closer to Jesus.
And be ready.
Then including discernment. But what does discernment mean? It means do not be deceived. So pray that you're not deceived.
Yes.
Pray to Jesus Christ that you're not deceived.
Yes.
And pray that for Jesus Christ that you can have a relationship with
Yes.
Him. A real relationship that's not based on intellectual ideas. This is the problem with the tribulation. That it can be the pre-trib, the post-trib, and the all of these different variations. And Jesus told Joshua, never talk about that stuff. Just leave it out. remain silent, because that is the BS that Christians get into, that is all packed into biblical like studies that are on the wrong topics. And Jesus is coming back. He doesn't want you to be filled up your mind with all these ideas and just have all these like
arguments
and never actually closer to Jesus. It's not about ideas, it's about Jesus. So any of the ideas that try to exalt themselves and keep you away from Jesus, then go take those, put them aside, and just focus on your time like a full-time job, like you only trying to get closer to Jesus, and just pray to Jesus that you will see the truth, only the truth, and never be deceived.
Yes.
And pray
Amen.
to Jesus that you would get closer to Jesus every single day.
Yes.
Because treat it like a full-time job. If you have any time to spare before this date, which has been becoming more and more real, and it will continue to get more and more real to people the more you pay attention, and just because God is God, and God in these end days is really trying to communicate one thing: what is getting ready to happen is going to be bad. It's going to be really bad, right? Bad, right? It's going to like shake the world, but it's going to be him taking his chosen people from the earth so they don't have to endure really, 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 really horrible stuff, right? So it's going to be confusing because Jesus is taking the people who are genuinely have a relationship with him, who love Jesus, who aren't just doing these practical habits to be a Christian religious person, right? So like, but the problem is that bad thing is coming when that happens. When Jesus takes all those genuine Christians with him on that day, the world is going to be cast into utter chaos. It's going to be the beginning of the tribulation. It's going to be the time.
I thought that there was 3.5 years that was peaceful before.
Yeah, well, it doesn't count. On the first day, it's going to be so awful. Mm-hmm. It's going to be so upsetting that they're not even going to hold the 2026 World Cup in America, because guess what? America is going to be a basket case. Mm. People are going to be gone. And so anyway, like, I mean, it might not even be enough time for you to get to know Jesus in this time. I don't know how that works, but like, so you just gotta like put in the time, be dedicated to him, because even if you don't make it in the rapture, you're gonna be putting your time in the only thing that matters. God is the only one that cares about you. Satan doesn't care about you at all. He wants to kill you, hurt you, destroy you, lie to you, manipulate you. God is the only one that cares about you. Mm-hmm. God is the only one that cares. Right. But we're called to live a life of suffering in this life, because die to yourself. It's like what Christ did, and the Christian Orthodox saints, they show this example. They realize that life on earth is really the temporary time where you get to go to heaven or hell if you accept Jesus and pursue him. And if you don't choose Jesus, then you have to be judged by all your sin, right? So the only thing is to recognize that this life is literally very, very temporary, right? Eternity is what awaits after you die or you're raptured. Mm-hmm. Eternity is what, and this is a crazy truth that I've relatively accepted just recently, because based on all these near-death experiences with Jesus, where he's explaining everything so clearly, and I'm just like, so I'm finally able to understand everything that I've been told, and it's making sense. But the bottom line is, live a life that even if you're suffering on earth, you're getting closer to Christ. If you're suffering on earth, this is the temporary where you build treasures in heaven for eternity, and where it's like basically like it's going to be way better there. It's not about trying to be awesome and living the perfect life here, making lots of money and doing all those things. It's better to be poor in spirit. It's better to have a bad life. It's better to actually suffer and die to yourself. If you can have money in God's way, which is a different total thing, you have to be able to be surrendered to God in order to actually be allowed to have money flowing through you. It might not be, you better not treat it like it's your money, but treat it like it's God's money flowing through you, because guess what? You have to remain humble, like the Christian Orthodox saints. You can listen and read about their lives. It's about literally staying true to the only one that matters, the only one that cares about you, which is God. God's a good shepherd, the good father. Satan doesn't care about you at all. Everything that's set up in this world is all about stealing your attention, stealing your ability to trust and know about God. So really, there's no way that Satan would be behind this. This is literally a clear push towards Jesus. This is a clear push towards the truth. There is no way this would be Satan doing this stuff. There is no way. So taking it, redirecting it back to who it really probably is God. God's the only one who can create clear, coherent, like truth and go through everything at the same time. And I'm telling you, it will be more and more clear as time progresses. It will be more and more evidence. It will be more and more voices shouting online, making clear communications, being clear about this clear message, saying there's only one message. Because guess what? The only thing that is true will be true. The only thing that is true will remain true. And the only message that God puts out there is the truth. And guess what? There's only one date for something like this. It's only going to happen once. It's going to happen the way God's plan. It's going to happen the way God has planned it all out. There is a time for it. God has an appointed time for all this stuff. And there's only 7,000 years in matches the creation time. This is one of the arguments. There's only 6,000 years about that we've had so far, since from Adam to Jesus to now is about 6,000 years. That last 1,000 years will be when Jesus reigns, but we're still not quite finished with the 6,000. There's 7 years left in that 6,000 years. 7 years will begin in September. And this is literally the last 7 years will begin in September 23rd or 24th, around there. The last 7 years of the 6,000 years from 32 AD to 2032 AD. So from 32 AD, when Jesus did all the dying and resurrecting and all that stuff, Passover, he fulfilled the first four feasts
BC, before
of
Christ.
the 7 feasts given in Leviticus 23. The first 4 of 7, and the last 3 are coming up. The Feast of Trumpets is this 5th one that has not been fulfilled yet. And then 7 years later is the 6th one, the Day of Atonement. And then the 7th one, which is just after that, is the Feast of Tabernacles. And those are going to be after that 7 years. And so, but the Feast of Trumpets is coming up. And this is this is the last of the last. This is the end of like human life that is all normal and stuff. This is the end of normal life on earth as we know it. I mean, life will still continue in the tribulation, but I'm saying like it will be severely upset by disappeared people all over the world. This will not be the same. This will not be the same world. This will be a different world, right? It will be a world that has changed. It will be a world that has questions, a world that seeking God more, because you're going to have a lot of people who are left from the rapture having seen the people go up, right? They will have seen the people go up. They will have all these real experiences of this happening, and that will have soaked into the internet. It will be everywhere. People will have all of these real experiences. They will get closer to God as a result. So the people that see it happen will get closer to God. They will share their message. Other people will get closer to God. That's why they call this the Great Awakening, right? The Great Tribulation is next. But even in the Great Tribulation, there will be a Great Awakening as well. And it will be very difficult. It will be more like suffering, these Orthodox saints. And like literally, like it will be more like suffering that refines the church, but because it will be very difficult eventually. But what I'm saying is, it's the Great Awakening, nevertheless, because this is about getting to know the only one that matters, which is God. The only one who cares about us, which is God. The only one that has that you can trust is God. And like, everything else is lies in this world. Everything else is like layers upon layers of lies and deceit. And like even in the Christian world, there's so many lies and deceit. Christians have bought into a message that's not sin and repentance and getting closer to God. People have bought into all these other messages. And then guess what? It's not sin and repentance and coming to Jesus. It's not sin and repentance and coming to the Lord, to God. It's literally not. The only thing you have to give up, die to yourself and repent and say, I'm the one that needs to follow God. Right? So it's about, that's the only message. But think about how many Christian messages or sermons have you ever heard that are not about that. They're not about the only thing that matters. And in this time, this is the message that needs to get out. Because the only thing that matters, and even in all of this, I hope you've gotten this by now, even in all of this, the only thing that matters, and this entire push about the rapture actually happening on one specific date, which is unbelievable if you just think of it like a random thing that's happening, it is a single voice. God is sending a message to us. He is saying, yes, this is truth. I will not stop putting this out. I will not stop reminding people, because the only thing that matters is truth. God is about truth. God is about love. God is about truth and love. He wants you to know the truth. He wants you to know what's happening, so that you will know when it happens, and people will have seen so many of these people go up that they will know what's happening. And they will know that it's God, and that God is good, and that they need to focus on that, no matter even if people say you can't have food. Because guess what? People, you're not going to have food in the tribulation. You're not going to have food, water, shelter. You're not going to have. You're going to be like cast out. But you have to die to yourself and trust that God will always provide, because He's the only one that you can count on. You can't count on anybody else, and because Satan's going to bring false peace, and he's going to make everybody think that they can. That when the time comes where you have to get like some type of little chip in order to buy food, or some type of digital thing in order to buy food, buy, sell, all that stuff. You can't do it. You can't do it, because it will remove part of your soul, and you go to hell. So, but all of this stuff is going, and this is an eternity, I think. Like, I don't want to believe that. Technically, I wish there was redemption, but from what I hear is you'll go to hell, and that's it. I don't understand it, but I do know that that's what I've heard. And so, like, pick heaven over that, and choose God now while you're alive, and choose Jesus now while you have time. And you have time. The message is clear. God is trying to get this point across, and there's only one message. September 23rd, 24th, the rapture is going to happen, and all of this evidence points to God's clear message. Have a soft heart, not a hard heart, because when God tries to communicate this many times to this many people to get His message out, you should really listen. You should really listen and let it affect you and let it get into you. Because if it's really a worldwide sweeping message, that where it's individuals God's talking to, individuals, personal level, right? When it's that type of a level happening everywhere, now that's God. And these are Christians, and sometimes people who are not Christians, but it's always a message that goes with who they are as a person, a message which goes with what they are interested in to know at that time, what they prayed about to know at that time. And God always knows the right thing to give people. It's usually something that matches their life, something that matches who they are. So it's like, the devil can only create chaos. Now God can create a coherent message all over the world at the same time in individuals, right? And it's only one message. This is a message from God. You can't like turn it into anything else. Satan would never want you to get closer to Jesus. But guess what? That's what this message implies. You must draw close to Jesus, because Jesus is the only one who's the good shepherd. Jesus is the only one who knows what you need in your life. Jesus is the only one that loves you and wants the best for you. This is about Jesus coming. This is about Jesus to save His church. This is about a time, no matter about dates or dates or no dates, or there are dates. It doesn't matter. This is about, there really is a date, and this date is going to change the world, and you better know it, because Jesus is going to want you to know Him after this happens, when the world is thrust into like, oh my gosh, what happened? What just happened? People are gone. Like, this person's not coming to work anymore. Or there was like 100 airplanes that crashed on the rapture date. Oh, there was like 100,000 cars that were destroyed on the rapture date. Or, why is there our economy suffering so much when all these people are no longer employed, because they're gone, permanently gone, because Jesus took His church. He took the genuine Christians. So the ones who genuinely love Jesus, the ones that are drawing close to Jesus, fast, pray, fast that God will give you answers, pray to Jesus that you would not be deceived, that you would be able to get closer to Him. Fasting really creates a strong relationship with God when you're doing it for Him. Do these things, and just know that there is no way this could be anything else but true. There is no other way, because God's not going to slow down this message. It's just going to become more clear over time, and you want to know who it's really from.
And then but even if that date is true, it's still good to be ready in case something happens before that or after that.